After 7, I'd like to call the department head meeting for the Village Board of Trustees for the Village of Dansville to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay. We have Village Attorney with us this evening to discuss issues evolving around the issue of foils. Pat, you've got the floor.
Thank you, John. Could you just explain to us the procedure for FOIL request?
Open that stuff here. I've got several. First of all is the issue, I suppose, of whether or not a village trustee has to resort to FOIL to obtain information that's a public record. And it's the position of NICOM, the National Conference of Mayors, and also of Robert Freeman in several of his opinions, that trustees should not have to make Freedom of Information requests to gain access to village records that are necessary for them to carry out the duties of the office. This is a NICOM publication. At the same time, however, trustees should be judicious in making requests for village records, as such requests could be time-consuming for the village's records management officers, diverting them from other critical work. And Mr. Freeman essentially says the same thing. He says, first of all, it is clear that records are requested. If it is clear that records are requested in the performance of one's official duties, the request might not be viewed as having been made under the Freedom of Information Law. In such a situation, if a request is reasonable and in the absence of a board rule or policy to the contrary, I believe that a member of a public body should not generally be required to resort to the Freedom of Information Law in order to seek or obtain records. But he goes on, in my view, in most instances, a board member acting unilaterally without the consent or approval of a majority of the total membership of the board has the same rights as those accorded to a member of the public, unless there is some right conferred upon a board member by means of law or rule. In such a case, a member seeking records could presumably be treated in the same manner as the public generally. When that is so, a request by a member of the board could, in my opinion, be considered as a request made under the Freedom of Information Law by a member of the public, and that person could be assessed fees at the same rate as any member of the public. So I guess you've got a sort of maybe a balancing act here. I don't know if that's the problem that...
No, that wasn't it, but that, when I spoke with Mr. Freeman and NICOM, they also gave me the same information.
Okay.
However, what is like a time frame for FOIL requesting information?
Each entity subject to the revisions of this article within 5 business days of the receipt of a written request for a record reasonably described shall make such record available to the person requesting it, or deny such request in writing, or furnish a written acknowledgement of the receipt of such request and a statement of the approximate date which shall be reasonable under the circumstances of the request when such request shall be granted or denied. And then it goes on that if a request is denied, any person denied access may within 30 days appeal in writing such denial to the head, chief executive, or governing body of the entity. So that would be the procedure. If the request is denied, you'd appeal it. And I don't know if it would be to the board or to the mayor, because it talks about both the head and the governing body. So I guess that would be something that this board would decide what the...
The board would have to do that because the board establishes the rules.
Okay.
So the mayor assigns each board member as liaisons to certain committees. So like deputy Mayor Whiteneck has Public Works, which includes the Water Department, the Sewer Department, the Streets Department, as well as several other areas under Parks and Recreation. Trustee Griffith has Budget, Finance, and Audit. Trustee LeVar has Public Safety, which includes Code Enforcement, Fire Department, Ambulance Company, Police Department, and Village Justices. And my liaison is to Technology. So I had requested both board meetings in November to receive the call logs for the village cell phones. And I still didn't receive it, and my requests were ignored. So what I did was I presented a FOIL request, and that was on November 21st. And then there I also state I made multiple requests on November 12th and November 18th to receive all cell phone records for the month of September. And specifically, I requested all phone logs for every cell phone during that time. So again, my request is to receive all cell phone information for all village cell phones during the entire month of September. Is that unreasonable?
I don't think so.
Let me clarify that a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Megan. We don't get all cell phone.
That's correct. Those were not records that we kept on file.
They are
in the clerk's
available.
office.
But they aren't available here. If we don't have the documents, we are not required to produce them.
But we did provide them.
But we got them because Scott had access to it.
Okay, so I got a response on December 2nd that, from the clerk's office, that they were in receipt of my FOIA request. Then I received on December 9th that the village does not routinely maintain call records for all employees, and I have attached the call log records which are on file, which was just basic monthly bill that we all see in the monthly bills. Then, after that, Scott said that he could print out the call logs because he had access to it. But, so he did that. And I received a message from Megan that on December 15th, that Scott dropped off the attached call logs, and then several of the pages were missing, and several of the police phones were missing without any explanation. So then I contacted Scott. Page 26 through 33 were missing on January 4th, and he said he turned in all the logs, but I was only given part of the logs. So then, let's see, the next day I got the rest of the logs, and then, actually, and that bill was only through part of September, August 13th through September 12th, so it actually spanned 2 bills. So then I had to continue to pursue to get the information, and I had an email that's still missing half of the information required, September 13th through September 30th. And then Scott provided an email to the clerk, and then she verified that then I verified with the DPW at the last meeting, and on February 9th, I received an email that Scott dropped these off for you. And I guess I'm just wondering why it has to be an 11-step process to receive phone records for 1 month,
Well,
over a 3-month span of time.
the Freedom of Information Law doesn't require an entity to create records, only provide what they have. So I don't know,
But
maybe
they have
maybe
access.
that was the process that
Access.
had to go through
Access outside the community. Anybody can, if you want those, you either go to that entity that holds them, which you do have access to.
The village holds the records, and the
No,
village
we don't
has
hold.
access.
We don't hold those records.
The
Not
village
all of
has
them.
access to the records because Scott was able to print them. And I don't know why the clerk's office does not maintain access or have access to that, because this is kind of something that seems like the office would have access to.
We don't.
No, that's just the way you get the records, right, Megan?
I think the only one that ever had it may have been, well, two, probably Donna and Carrie Ann. It was never switched.
I'm not sure, we've never had a whole lot of interest until recently.
It's something that can be done, obviously. But as I pointed out, if we don't have the documents, never given the documents, we're not required to maintain the documents or produce them. And the thing is, if other individuals have it, which I might add, Trustee Criley, you do have access to, you could have just gone directly to it.
No, remember when you said I was overstepping my bounds?
No,
Before?
we had that discussion that night, and I said you would have view only. That's all you need. And you can get those documents. You can download them.
You said
You
I
just
was
can't manipulate
overstepping my bounds, and I'm just asking for the record so that I
You
can...
can go online because you have access.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. Megan, who has access right now?
When I had phoned in, it was Scott, yourself, and Pat.
I've got it.
Yeah.
Then you're going to provide them for me. I'm not going to overstep my bounds. I'm just asking for the record so that I can do my job as a liaison to technology. And I just don't think it should be a 3-month, 11-month step process.
Well, if you're the
just to get-
technology, you should be able to get the information.
That's right. That's why
So,
I'm asking
and you
for
got
it.
access. So I don't know why anybody else has to do it.
I'm not getting access when I've been told that I'm overstepping my bounds. I
You
will
weren't?
get the information provided for me.
I think we're quibbling over this, John. I think it's got nothing to do with the freedom of information. This has got to do with whether or not somebody wants to take responsibility for what she's supposed to do. And if she refuses to avail herself of the access she has been given, that's not, in my opinion.
John, do you recall overstepping my bounds?
Well, it sounds like Megan gave you what she had as she was able to access it, I guess.
But don't you access your email? Don't you access your phone bill over email and see what your charges are and things like that?
No, I get the paper ones. Is that how you get the bills? They're emailed to you?
Yeah.
No,
No.
paper.
Yeah.
They
Paper.
mail them.
But it's available, and actually, most companies have their employees document their calls as part of their expenses.
I don't know if the village does here.
I can't even get them, so we aren't doing that.
No, we do not have employees document their calls. There's no requirement for it. If somebody raises an issue and wants to make a proposal, put it in writing, put it before the board. There's no need for it.
Has anyone else had to make a FOIA request? Do you get your information in a timely manner?
All I can say that typically when I'm looking for information, I've been given access to it or I've been able to obtain it in a reasonable period of time. That's been my experience, Pat.
You haven't had to FOIL anything?
No. No. But with that said, most of the information that I have needed has been dealing with a person directly. And it hasn't been something that's been, documented or you got to retrieve it. Okay,
Well,
so
I
haven't been in that situation.
I asked twice at 2 different board meetings in November, though,
Mhm.
to no avail.
It was a reasonable request.
Thank you. And that was actually one of 4 that I've had to, 2 in November, 1 in December. 1 in December, I'd like to talk to the board more about these vouchers that are only being signed by 1 or 2 people for thousands of dollars. I find it hard to believe that.
Well,
one
let's,
person's
first of
seen-
all, what's that got to do with John?
That was part of my FOIL.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with John being here? John need to be here to discuss vouchers.
I didn't say we were going to do it now. I just said that is something I'd like to bring forward to the board. So it doesn't matter if it takes place over several months and it's been something that was personally asked and ignored. That's okay?
Well, I think your recourse would be to appeal to the board. If you felt it does say that if it's not provided within a certain time period, it's treated as a denial. That's in the Freedom of Information Law. So your recourse would be to appeal to the board.
Do you recall when we were talking about this before and they said I could get access and I said there's no way I will touch the records without them being provided for me because the mayor kept insisting I was overstepping my bounds?
Well, I don't know. He disputes that. So
No, we have documentation for that. Okay, well, thank you for your input.
If you would like to. Sure, certainly.
Okay.
Can we go right into that?
Yes.
Different folder.
Tammy, perhaps you can give the background on this. Most people here know what we're talking about, but just to get it on record.
John's going to fill us in on where we're at
Okay.
with 48 Bryan Street. 48 Bryan Street being the large yellow house on the right at the top of the street. My citations have been issued. She was taken to court already once. Found guilty and charged with a fine, or just charged with a judgment. And then nothing kind of came of that, and she ended up paying the taxes off on the house and keeping the house. So I cited her again. She didn't come into compliance, so it got turned to John again.
Yeah,
Okay.
There was a trial in front of Dave Worth a couple years ago, actually, almost to the day. She was fined $5,000. We filed the judgments in both Livingston County, where the house is, and also in Steuben, because she owns property in Steuben as well. I don't expect she's going to write a check out to the village. She was in danger of losing the house at a tax foreclosure sale. Somebody paid the taxes for her. Just kind of as an aside, she's in exactly the same position today. She's 2 years behind in her taxes. The property's taxes aren't paid in June. The house is going to be on the block in July. So I don't know, one option, I guess, would be to see if she loses the house and then somebody else is going to buy it. That's the problem. There are different ways you can proceed depending on under which law you want to act. There is a zoning law that the village has under which you could proceed, but in order for the village to demolish the property without providing her any type of due process at all, it would have to be an imminent danger of bodily harm to falling bricks, that sort of thing, which I don't think it's...
It's in imminent danger of collapsing right this second itself, especially the snow load. Does that mean it has to fall off her property onto another human being?
Well,
Because, it's definitely...
Is it condemned, Tammy?
Yes. It's an eminent...
yeah,
What's that word? Yeah, it could collapse any second, literally. We could hear a big boom right now.
yeah. Well, this is the zoning law, emergency measures. When there is imminent danger of failure or collapse of a building or structure which endangers life, or when any structure or part of a structure has fallen and life is endangered by the occupation of the structure. It goes on, that sort of situation. It does give the village the power to serve a notice of intent to demolish, and then an order to demolish, and actually the village could demolish the building. There are other provisions. There's a section of the general municipal law that deals with collection of the cost of demolition from the owner. There's a section of the executive law that talks about a fine or imprisonment, which you don't really think would solve the situation here. Or you can go to New York State Supreme Court for an order to demolish I believe what she was charged with before the Uniform Fire and Building Code, the
Yes.
Property Maintenance Code, that provides for a fine of $250 each week of violation, but we been there and done that. There's a local law number 1 of 2007, which provides for having a hearing before this board, and then the board could issue an order to demolish. My concern there is she does have certain due process rights, and I'm concerned that if you do anything other than a court proceeding, you could get sued in return for depriving of her rights. Justice court, our local courts don't have jurisdiction over that sort of thing. You'd be in a higher level court. I checked to see, we had this discussion before when Jay Griffith was here, and he made a point. I didn't realize that when the village turns the unpaid taxes over to the county reimburses the village, but they won't reimburse the village for cost of demolition.
Right.
I checked with Dave Morris on that, and he said that the county's not going to subsidize the village's code enforcement, basically. So the village, you proceed, you're going to have expense involved with the court proceeding, but I think the larger expense is going to be the actual cost of demolition. It might, make a couple suggestions, it might make sense for Tammy and me and maybe one board member to sit down for a little while just to kind of go over this, to form a plan, and it might make sense to get an estimate on what it would cost to demolish the thing, just so you know what kind of dollars you're talking about. I don't even know who does that. So does the village do that?
I would rather we didn't.
Yeah. But no, we have there's like 4 different contractors in town that will do that, that do that work as they're living.
Yeah, okay. And I think the number's 10,000. If it's more than that, you have to get put it up a bit. It might be higher, it might be 20, but they are getting.
Yeah. We don't put the estimate out to bid.
No, but you might want to get as many as you can.
If we get 3, 4 estimates that are, and they're all over 10,000, then we put it out to bid.
Yeah.
On the building code portion of it, the village zoning, $250 issue. Was there also a caveat to that as to if that's not paid, is jail an option under that or not? I can't remember, I read it so many times I can't.
Okay. It is, but Justice Worth didn't do that. He didn't want her in a position where she could go to jail, so he converted it to a civil fine.
But the option is there.
If she was charged again.
Again.
Yeah. But that's not going to get the house done.
Yeah, that's 3
It
days
does,
in jail.
it does tend to make people recognize the importance of the issue.
I don't know if she is. I don't know where her money comes from, and I don't know if she has the financial wherewithal to carry it down.
Sometimes nickel and diming something is more effective than trying to go for the long ball.
Well, that's why I thought maybe if a couple of us could meet and talk it over, we could form a plan and get the board's
Let's take that route.
approval on it.
John, I just have one more question. Could you just clarify again? So it's okay when I receive the records to just receive part of them and have some of them withheld from me? And then when I ask for them, then I get all of the records? You know, I guess I'm kind of...
Well, your original request should be complied with.
Thank you.
Were you asking for new things, or?
I was asking for the same thing since November. And I just got the final part of it this week. And that was only after my persistence, 11-step process, as I told you, to get that information. Now, maintaining it, they have the records, they're available because they're online and the village has access to them online, so they do maintain them.
I think, like I said before, I think what you should do is appeal to the board. I don't think the village board has their own set of rules for disclosure of information. I think the law required it, actually.
Yes, it does.
So I think that might be something that, you know, in your leisure time, you might want to work on, because not only for members of the, but that could be a separate area of it. You know, what if a village office...
The board itself is required to do it.
You know, so that might be something to think about.
And for the record, I stated back then that I'm not going to access the records. I stated that publicly because I was accused of overstepping my bounds. So anything that I was going to get was going to be provided for me so that I could do my job. My one job is liaison to technology.
I don't think you're prohibited. Just because you have the right to access those records while performing the course of your duties, I don't think that means that you have to do it that way. If you want to foil the information, certainly you can do that. I mean, I don't know if you're getting charged at 25 cents a page or not, but you know, that's another thing too.
But not to get the
But I
information
think-
in a
I think-
timely manner.
Well, I think you need to appeal it. I mean, that's the recourse. If you are dissatisfied, you don't think the records are being properly disclosed, you can appeal to the board.
If a trustee has to go through this, I'm just kind of concerned, well, somebody else could.
Well, I guess they go through the same thing. Okay? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Jen. Did you want
Want to
to
say something now?
discuss following through on John's suggestion about getting together and having a discussion? Or reserve that till,
Well, let's do it tonight, get it on the books. That's when we want to do it. Well,
is that something that you want to be involved in, or
flip a coin.
flip a coin?
I don't care, it doesn't matter to me, I'm here.
Either way.
Well,
Why don't we discuss it and then we'll proceed from there?
Okay,
Okay. Let me know.
all right.
Good night.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. See you.
Thank you.
Okay. Under Mayor's comments, correspondence, I had a discussion today with Al Jamison, actually it was with Richard June, who's half of the partnership, concerning the castle and their efforts to get possession of it. And they want to appear before the board next week, which is fine. And then it's basically just give us a quick brief, and then they want to come back in March, so they will be on the agenda. So you're aware of that. I don't have any other details other than that they're looking for condemnation of it so that we can take it over and turn it over to them. However, I don't know if they realize it. However you take the building, you still got to pay for it. And they seem to think you can just take it, and it's eminent domain. Everything still requires money, and people can appeal that. Owners can, and go to court, and end up paying court costs plus anything else the court wants to do. So just be aware of that. That will be next week. I applaud them for their efforts, but I don't know if they're fully aware of all the nuances to this.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so going on to committee reports, action list, legislative action list update. Okay, everybody should have a copy of that, I believe. And actually on here going to January 20th, regular meeting. I guess that would be before that. You've actually got the list now of housing grant recipients. I made a copy. I think Megan may have made a copy as well. Put it in your folders. And do we have any more information on general budget, separating out medics? Because I haven't done anything with that.
No, I had emailed one of the representatives from NICOM because I couldn't find a whole lot of information with what I have down in the office, and I'm just waiting to hear back.
Brian say anything today?
We briefly discussed it last month when he was here, but we didn't discuss it again.
Okay.
I did talk with, I was on the phone with Brendan from Bonadeo the other day, getting some more stuff for our audit, and I ran it by him, and he seems to agree with me that we can do it, but there's still more research that needs to be done.
Okay. For those of you who aren't familiar, the thought is to separate MedX from the general fund, have its own fund. It would be easier to manage as far as the money flow goes. We're still looking at that, though. Okay, Chief, how are we doing with checking with the 61 Franklin Street neighbors?
Good. I hit the 4 people that are up around that have to look out at it every morning. The one thing they agreed on is they all, from significant to minor degree of, it's a hazard. One woman has a daycare across the street, and she has to, she makes sure the kids are reminded not to get off the sidewalk. But they're all coping with it. They recognize they wish somebody would just take it over and fix it. They realize that's probably a long way off. But there's a better chance of the porch roof falling down before someone actually takes the property. So they're all concerned with the safety, but likewise they're all concerned with causing it to stand out more than it already does.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody brought up the theory of definitely being a protest against orange snow fence. Was definitely not something they were interested in. The comments on fencing was it just makes it harder to mow, it just gives the weeds another place to grow, it just makes the limbs that are already not trimmed more inaccessible to be trimmed. And the fences never stop anybody, they're just going to go over around them anyways, unless somehow you're going to go around the whole property, which then who pays for that? So the fencing stake fencing didn't really strike anybody's fancy. They all would like to see they'd like to see the porch somehow supported so it didn't fall down, because they thought that would only make it worse from the standpoint that if it did actually fall down, either without a fence or behind the fence, that would definitely be an eyesore that probably wouldn't get cleaned up by anybody. So.
Have we heard back from the company?
Are you looking at me? I'm sorry.
Yes, I am.
Glasses. I'm sorry. No, we have got no response. At
What's
this
the deadline?
point. The deadline was, when was the 9th? Sunday?
Monday.
That was the deadline. So now I'm at another one to turn over to John, and we take him to court. It's a bank. Remember, I hunted them out.
Mortgage company.
It's a mortgage company.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mortgage company that doesn't exist in New York State, but their attorney does.
Okay.
So their take was to try to do something to support the roof so it doesn't become a bigger eyesore. They understand the theory of fencing it, but their theory is that if we fence it, then the porch will fall down behind the fence and just be ugly.
So they're caught between a rock and a hard place here a little bit.
If we step onto the property to support the roof in any way, shape, or form, we're taking full liability for anything that occurs on the property.
But if we do nothing,
right,
and somebody gets hurt, we're going to get it anyway.
No, we're not liable if somebody gets hurt on
Oh,
that
trust
property.
me, we're going to get sued right after the day the other person does.
It would be
And that's
hard
gonna cost
find
us
at
money.
fault if we weren't trespassing on the property.
and if we fence it, we were still in the same boat.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, once we recognize it's an issue, it's an issue. And, we recognize that we've had, at least one neighbor make an official call last week, coincidentally, about it.
Mhm.
So I guess it's a matter of trying to come up with a lesser evil. There's no good options.
Any comments from the board? Come on, folks, this is a safety issue for the whole community. It's not the only house out there. It's just the one that's got our attention right at the moment, next to 48 Prime. There are a lot of houses in this dilapidated situation that aren't being maintained.
Yeah, 35 Liberty, 48 Leonard, 48 Prime, 61 Franklin. I can go on.
You got to start somewhere. These are the obvious ones, the ones that are getting the squeaky wheel right now. Well, they're the squeaky wheel.
My suggestion would be, unfortunately John has left, but it would be something I would discuss with John to minimize, limit, or to ensure that we don't have a liability, and then what options are open to us given the fact that we don't want to accept liability, and perhaps he could give some guidance on that.
Now,
In lack of that, I would think that at a minimum we've got to somehow contain or make it difficult to get to the actual house, where definitely a person could be at risk of some type of occurrence.
Which would be the fence option.
Now, if John says that we need to do nothing, so we don't accept liability, we're not held responsible, then we ought to discuss it further. I think that's what that's telling us, is that we pursue it from a legal perspective or from a perspective of what you've already done, and take the legal path and just be aware that it's out there and potentially it's a liability.
tell you what, see me in the morning. We'll call John. set up that other appointment, and we'll do both at the same time, maybe. That way we aren't charging for two separate events.
Yeah. Maybe you'll have more before the end of the night.
Never know.
I don't know. That's kind of the way I see it. I mean, you know, there's a lot of discussion around liability and the fact that it is a safety issue. So.
What was the center municipal rate schedule for Scott?
That was,
That was with
the
the
county
county.
brought a contract, right, to us.
Okay.
And you guys had asked for the different trade-off rates for
Okay.
employees and equipment.
So we good on that? We haven't done any, taken any
No, it's
action?
not
The board
done yet.
hasn't taken any action. Okay, that's for next week.
I think you were gonna bring it at some point. Yeah.
Okay. Bill Futner been down to your place yet? Take a look? Or up?
Bill Putner?
Yeah, remember you offered to
Oh.
show him the blueprints.
No, I haven't. I've got the blueprints with me. so-
Show him where the water comes from.
I haven't run across Bill yet. I can be sure to give him the tour.
Yeah, let's see, where do we stand on the animal control officer proposal?
I'd like to have the board really set parameters so that we could work within there, because if we could put together a proposal, but unless everybody's kind of on the same page, it isn't going to pass or be put into effect. So if we have a joint agreement on how we want to proceed, what do you see an animal control officer position consisting? How many hours a week? What type of arrangement? I've spoken with Livingston County, and they certainly do backup. They also contract with some communities and work that way. That's an option. There's a lot of different avenues you could take, but I think we all need to be on the same page to make sure that it's going to work.
Pat, did you speak with the county?
Livingston County, yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Did they?
They said they contract out with communities and do that. They also have partnerships with communities. They have their own animal control. And in some communities, I spoke with Geneseo, Livonia, some of the places have a code enforcement that also does animal control. Some places have just a part-time person that does that. And some people have like a part-time code enforcement, part-time animal control, but it was all part-time. So,
County didn't offer up any information relative to
contracting with
what they
us.
offer, potential costs, that kind of thing?
It depends on your needs and what you want for needs, and then they're adjustable from there.
I think
That's why I say
yeah.
we need to get more concrete in what we're hoping to do.
I think, at least personally, I was looking at it the other way, and I understand, taking that approach, but the way I was looking at it, see what is offered out there and see how well it fits with what we perceive to be our needs based upon what's available, what service do they offer, and at what costs, and whether the times that they offer those services, is it on per call, do they have to have staffing or be available, certain parts of the day, days of the week, and kind of look what's available out there, and then determine from that what would best serve our community if we wanted to take that approach. I understand what you're saying,
Just like we should just narrow it down to.
Well, it's tough given the constraints we're working under, budget-wise, and not knowing exactly what would be available to us at what times, what days. How would they present it to a community like Dansville is looking for some type of part-time coverage? I don't know.
I know. And
It's difficult for me. That's why I was hoping to get something from them to kind of start the discussion.
I could see if they could come and present to us.
Or if they got anything documented. Either way.
Well, it's kind of hard to document because they want to know what our needs are.
Yeah, I know. That's
So-
let us know what they're doing for some other communities. You know, they've got to have an hourly, or somehow they establish how they charge a rate.
And the other is proximity. You know, they're really close.
Yeah,
To
I know.
here, for response times and things like that.
Yep.
So, okay.
I would think that other than, you know, cost, what you just mentioned, response time, which may be the bigger of the two issues. You know, if you can't respond in a timely manner and, you know, resolve whatever the issue is, then they're going to be driving down here and just driving back and doing nothing.
Exactly.
You know, so we need to factor that in, or at least consider it in our decision making.
Anything else on that topic? We'll move along then to some other legislative issues. We've got the Community Development Block Grant update, which is that list that's included in your folders. Also, you've received some information on the Main Street grant. Just to give you an update on that, the applications are due next Tuesday. I've been working with John Chu, and hopefully we'll have a nice package for him. We'll put him today on it, and then I've got to call Louise tomorrow and see, make sure that it's answering the bill, because she really wants to help support him on his project there with the old KFC building. What, 164? That's the number?
The old KFC building, you mean Maxwell Block?
No,
Or the one on
next to it, where Harold's was.
60
That's the KFC building.
Yeah, 164. Which is owned by John Q.
Chu.
Was that how it's pronounced?
Yep.
I always thought it was Q.
Well, I asked him today. Xianhua Chu is his real name.
Is he still living there?
Yep,
From his restaurant in Guelph, maybe?
that's his intent. Okay. Let's see. Got that taken care of. You also should have a document in there concerning the lawsuit with Keith Petty. It just gives you, it's a motion of summary judgment that's been filed. That's all that is. No details. Have to wait and see what happens with that. And I will hold that topic until we get down to public safety, which is next.
We'll go back with Tammy. Is there anything to add to what we've already discussed about code?
We have a brand new restaurant on Main Street that just opened last week. She's opened, very nice woman, Judith Dale. She's renting from Bill Funtner.
She's in the old steakhouse, right?
You mean the old Wrangler's place?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. 159 Main Street. She's open on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. It's buffet. You go in and eat whatever, take off whatever's on the buffet. She's a lovely lady. I think that's, no, I did that for inspection in February, so that's not on the report you have. It'll be on next month's. So that's not on the report, so that just opened a week ago. We know 161 Franklin Street's an issue. You know 48 Bryan is. 48 Leonard, ongoing issue, condemned property also. And 35 Liberty Street, unfit for human habitation. All bank owned. Two of them are JP Morgan Chase. One's Franklin is the lender from not in this state, and the other one's the property owner that lives in Wayland. They're all to the point of needing legal action. I've done all that I can.
Did that realtor get back to you, a real estate gal, for 35?
Yes, that's
Or next to
35 Liberty, yep.
Mhm.
I've gotten back, she's gotten back to me, I've gotten back with her. She didn't have any further information for me. I ended up going to the county and coming up with JP Morgan Chase and their attorney, their attorney is also in New York State, spent a bit of this afternoon on the phone with their attorney, who said, we're no longer their attorney, it's just flat out you have to deal with JP Morgan Chase. Have fun. So we've got 4 really hot, bad houses right now. 3 of them are bank owned, 1 is privately owned, and I've done all I legally can do from my office at this point. It requires an attorney's further steps.
Just keep track of everything you've done, and we'll have to have John do the same thing, because we need to actually go, I think, to their state representatives to have them once again.
Out of 4 houses, 2 unfit for human habitation, 2 totally condemned. Totally condemned means no, they can't fix them. They must come down. Unfit for human habitation, I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, and they can go in and repair them should they want to.
This is part of that zombie thing that, as we got close to the election, disappeared.
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, one of the attorneys for the one bank actually said, he said, we refer to those as zombie houses. I said, yes, but that's not doing me any good right at the moment. It's all attorneys and courts legal action beyond me now.
Could you, starting next meeting, provide us with an information sheet as to the addresses that you just mentioned, any ones that need to be added, what the current status is, and maybe what we're doing to pursue it?
Yeah, that's
So we
something
can-
that I have been trying to work on,
Yeah.
is houses that are setting empty or things like
Yeah.
that. I've been trying to. That's our 4 hot ones right now.
What I'm saying, if you could provide us with a list, something we can look at on a per month basis, that'll let us know, what's currently hot, and you can provide updates if there are any, and then additions to the list. So if we get asked out in the community, what's the current status, we've got the information right there. I don't want,
They don't like the status in
I don't want the
hands of
unabridged, we don't need all the details, just bullets. And maybe what the current status is and what's being done. That's simple. Don't put a lot of time into it, but that would, I think, help the board to keep track of this and follow it.
I took poor Pete on one of the inspections with me.
Looks nice. It looks okay on the outside, but boy, when you walk through that door.
It doesn't. Its looks are deceiving. It's lipstick on a pig. It didn't look too bad on the outside. Woo!
We did last meeting talk a little bit about 247 Main.
That's me.
Yeah.
So what I did is kind of funny. I ended up having a conversation, funny from my point. I had a conversation with another town official from another town who basically was picking my brains on these same issues. And as I advised them, the paperwork part, to some degree, is the simple part. The violation, black and white violation, is easy. What you end up having a difficulty with, and we had this problem a number of years ago on different things in the village, and that is what seems like maybe a good idea. You got to keep in mind if someone who takes a movie camera or a camera out the next day and decides to flip 8, 10, 15, 25 pictures of something that's very similar to what you just cited them for, now you're off to the races.
Yeah.
Why are you singling me out? And personalities turn into the mix, or at least people try to make personalities part of the mix. So the paperwork part of it's easy. Keeping the public and potential jurors on your side, that you're not just honing in on one person for unfair reasons, is really more of winning a case than the paperwork is. Keeping that in mind, I took a ride around, and that's what I advise this other town official, is you want to make sure, because rumor in Dansville says that you have some similar circumstances in that particular town where there's more than one person that is known by the village to be in a similar circumstance, but yet you're only going after this one in particular. You might want to slow down on that one, bring everybody else up to speed, and then move forward on them all as a group of what you know about. What you don't know about, there could be 5 people speeding right now through Dansville. They're not getting tickets because we don't know about it. One person might be getting a ticket right now because we know about that one. We're not responsible for the other 5 we don't know about, only to be fair to the one we do know about. same thing goes true with these building code things. So I took a ride around town just to make sure that we weren't opening ourselves up saying that, we're unfairly going after one particular individual. And there are 2 other houses in town that have the tie-back siding that is exposed. Now, I'll check with Tammy to find out just what their status is. Maybe their permits are still open and they're still going through the process and they still have time, but I don't know that right yet.
I can tell you Clay Street does.
I missed that one, so that's 3.
Oh, sorry, 20 Clay Street's under building permits.
But,
It has till spring to finish the siding.
One is 2 houses away from a government official. So that could definitely be a difficulty of, isn't it interesting that you live 2 houses away from a place that's just like this, but that's not part of the problem, only this one is. It starts to leave that taste in someone's mouth that maybe we're picking and choosing who we're going after. So I'm reevaluating again. I'll get with Tammy on this new information and find out where we're at with those permits, because the permit issue might take that argument right out, because if the permits are still open, no big deal. So I'll get with you here in the next day or 2. We'll figure that out. So we're progressing extremely slowly, but I think when we're all said and done, whatever we move forward to do, we'll be able to justify it either way.
I don't think anybody's singling anyone out. That was the only one that we received. I don't think we received a 20 Clay Street, have we?
Received a what, a complaint?
Received
You don't have to receive the complaint to
You
be...
won't receive any paperwork on 20 Clay Street. It's under a building permit. It'll be
Okay.
house
Well,
wrapped until
there's-
spring when they
you
can
said
actually
there's other
side.
ones.
There's at least 36 Leonard Street and 42 Park Ave.
36 Leonard. Have they been cited?
Not yet. We're going to have to check the records and see what their status
I
is.
couldn't rail it off the top of my head. I would do nothing without looking at my files.
They may be completely in compliance at this point, but it's better to have that answer ahead of time rather than find out later
Absolutely.
on that maybe you missed something. So we'll make sure we're on track.
And sometimes it's easy when you're walking by certain things not to notice it.
Right.
Not intentionally. I mean, you just gotten used to it.
We always hear about the guy who crosses the train track every single day and all of a sudden gets hit by the train. He doesn't see it, doesn't see it, doesn't see it, and one day he's the one that's hit by the train. And so I just think we need to make sure we're on
Yeah,
track with that.
that's fine.
I think, though, once we make sure that we're on track, we are not singling anybody out. What we're doing is acting on information that's been provided to us. And it's our duty, because we have a code office, to respond to those issues in the community. So I don't want to sit on this. Let's determine, if there are building permits still open, and if not, let's take whatever action is necessary and treat everybody equally. But we need to do something.
Yeah.
So between now and the next meeting, I'd like to hear what's been done.
Yeah, we'll be able to do that.
That's next week.
Well, I meant we'll give it. I don't mean next week.
Oh,
If
I-
you need longer, the next month.
I think we can have it by next
Yeah.
week.
If you have it by next week, that's great.
I hope I can have it by next
We'll
week.
figure that out
But-
next week.
That's why I said it wasn't to you, it was to them. That's next week.
If somebody feels as though they're being singled out, it's our responsibility to address those issues.
Correct.
This board, we will act on that.
The only reason, we only had paperwork on them one. We didn't have any on the other.
Yeah, there's nothing there. Nothing else has been mentioned.
That's why that one was mentioned.
Anybody bring it to your attention about the other ones, Tammy?
20 Clay Street has been brought to my attention, but
Mhm.
like I said, she's actually living in the house because I just finally was able to give her a temporary C of O
Right.
just in December, but she just couldn't side in December. So final siding will be in the spring. And yes, actually, lots of people keep calling me on that one, and she's actually okay.
I mean, the idea is to be reasonable.
Right.
Not to be unreasonable.
And
But not just to let it go. There are situations where, for whatever reason, perhaps you got to live with it until spring gets here. I understand
Yeah, that's
that.
part of
I
the-
understand that. That's
difficulty right now is the weather.
the weather is an issue. That's fine, but we need to track and be aware that if that's the case and there's no movement, then we need to take action,
Right.
unless it's warranted before then.
When was the one at 247? What was the date on that?
I don't have the paperwork in front of me, Pat. I'm sorry, I can look it up for you, but you said you had the paperwork in front of you. What
Not
was the date?
with me today.
Oh.
Right. Anything else? Or anything else for Tammy? Thank you. I don't see anybody here. Yes, I do. Greg, you're it. You're representing the fire company. Are you going to be the official representative starting soon, or what?
It could be in April 1st, yeah.
Okay, well, that's soon.
In March, we have elections, so unless somebody runs against me,
Yeah.
We'll be looking
No,
forward
hold
to
on. That happened.
Do you have, we don't have a report from you that I'm aware of.
No, it's probably because Chamber was out of town, working out of town.
Yeah, okay.
Over a week ago, so I don't even know when he'll be back yet, but I'm really not feeling sorry for him. He's in North Carolina or something.
All right.
Outside of that, everything, we've had some issues with ladder truck that got fixed. Some electrical issues. Haven't seen a bill yet on it, but just old 15 years old. So believe it or not. So,
You know, you've got the years that it's old, but what's the actual age?
on the road.
You know what I mean?
Actually, now that all the issues are wired out, it's got a pretty decent truck for us.
Yeah,
You do think it's been a joke for us. The first 5 years it was pretty rough. So.
No, we're good. We're good, Greg.
I wasn't around then, so.
Okay.
But no, we did get those issues resolved. Probably it's something that's going to need to be addressed when he did it. It had to do with wiring in one of the outriggers. Sensors and the wiring was pretty well shot just from the going in and out, wear and tear. And we're probably going to have to address the other three maybe next year. Instead of waiting for it to happen, maybe we're better off getting right in there and doing it now. They're running out of parts, believe it or not, finding parts for it already.
Yeah.
So that is an issue. So that's something we've been talking about, is possibly doing that next year. So.
How soon could you bring a cost or a figure to us to at least look at?
When I find out when the new one comes in, I can get a cost from estimate, so that wouldn't be that bad.
Okay.
I can get one for it to see what he.
Well, when it makes sense, when it makes
And he
sense.
said the problem with the wiring is once you start, it seems like you're following it, all the way back.
You open up the
and
hornet's
stuff,
nest.
Yeah, so, but he keeps saying everything else on the truck seems to be fine. It's just some of the normal wear and tear. So, but it's not prevented right now from being in services or anything. So
Okay,
that's
good.
it. So,
How's the new pumper and the rescue working out? Is that working out well?
It's working. It's responding to actually a lot of calls. We do have an issue actually right now with our phone system, so Empire's working on it. Got to get them in. I think they're coming in next week to figure out what's going on with it and stuff. But again, it's all them. We're not paying for it. So anything that we've been finding wrong with the truck, they've actually fixed, and they've done a very good job with it. So.
Good.
On top of it.
Yeah. So, and they're actually the one doing the ladder work too, so pretty decent. So that's physicals, I believe. And physicals are going to be coming in April, so I think that's when we're trying to schedule them. It's a new year for the fire department. We go from January to December with physicals and fit tests and all the training hours and stuff, so we're going to do it in April.
Okay.
So.
Anything, Greg?
Yeah, I've got one item here. Everybody should have a copy of it in their folders.
Oh,
The ISO. It's I guess it's a rating on the fire insurance,
Yes.
for fire insurance. And I'm not too sure if I understand all of this anyway. I'm sure Chamber was copied in, I think.
Yeah, actually, I picked up Jacob's mail, so I got it.
Oh, okay. Have you haven't had a chance to look at it?
I briefed through it. I think the good thing I got out of it was that rating hadn't changed.
Okay.
Still a 5. We were a 5. We're still a 5.
Mm-hmm.
But we're pretty close to being a 6. So, which if we did fall into a 6 category, that would obviously impact everybody's insurance rate. So.
Okay.
There's some questions there, and we probably asked. The equipment-wise, I think we scored very well on equipment.
I hope so.
And the ladder and stuff. I think training we got hurt on, but we trained the OSHA standards, and they cite NFPA, which are like 2 to 3 times what's required. So they're really set up for a paid fire department is what the rating is. It would be very hard to
achieve that, huh?
achieve that. I mean, for a new firefighter, they're expecting you to do $200 of training before you would put them on the fire ground. It's just, obviously those are guys that are getting paid to do that. So,
Went through some academy someplace. And
so I think we have, like I said, the rating didn't change, and I think it's probably one of the, if it's not the lowest one, it's one of the lowest ones in the county for the township and the village. So,
okay.
I do have some questions on the water, the hydrants too. I think some of them were quite low. That they had listed. I don't know if you gave them, Scott. I don't know if they used the last one, but I know we get more water out of those than what they show us.
Okay.
Especially.
Is that volume or is that pressure?
It's volume.
Mhm.
So, I know we've done loops. I know there's been some improvements on the outskirts of the village and stuff. Some bigger lines. And they actually based it on a fully involved structure, which to me is kind of stupid because it doesn't really matter if it's fully involved how much water you got because you're not going to save anything anyway. So, so why base your rating on that? But that's what they do. So. Well, actually, Kevin Niedermeyer, I believe, got a copy of it, and
Okay.
Mike Bradley got one because
Yep.
there's communications in there.
Mhm.
And I actually have a meeting tomorrow with Kevin, and so we might go to approach him if he could help me out with some of the questions. And
He obviously didn't help out anybody across the street from him there in that church.
no, thing was going pretty well. I think.
Yeah, that thing was nothing left to it. But that'll be on the front page of the county news tomorrow.
Outside of that, we're doing pretty well.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Greg. I don't see anybody here from the ambulance. Just for the record, they owe us a report for last month and this month. Police, Charlie.
Highway report as well.
Yes, you do.
Otherwise, let's see. Otherwise, the district attorney's office is apparently going to change ADAs. Not sure why, but they're just changing faces downstairs. One guy's been here maybe a year now. I think he's still staying employed with the district attorney's office, but they put a different face down here, and they've asked the courts to consider starting earlier today. Must be midnight, 1 o'clock is when the ADA's out. So.
All I can do is shift the afternoon to the morning and the morning to the afternoon, or the evening to the afternoon.
It's going to be 12 hours, whether it starts at 10 and goes to 10.
Still gonna be a long day.
To midnight, it's going to be 12 hours. I mean, starting earlier doesn't cut down the number of cases,
The volume is what it
It
is.
is what it is.
Yeah.
So, just for what that's worth. DCJS came down and started their study. I own a bunch of material, so I'll be sorting through statistics for them and call numbers and things like that. The number of calls are relatively easy to pull out. Get some of the other information. It's a little bit more time consuming. The computer program that we use now just doesn't break that stuff down, and we just don't, time of arrival and time of clearing the call. That would be another, for every time you put in, that's another 10,000 entries a year. It gets a little monotonous and a little, it's just not practical to spend that kind of time filling that kind of material in when you're really documenting the important things on conversations, that means collecting injuries, property stolen, property damage. There's far, far more beneficial information. But if you're trying to do a study on manpower, they like that stuff. So they also are looking for some statistics on how much investigative follow-up there is to our calls. A lot of times what they're working with is patrol staffing. That's a pretty straightforward mathematical figure. X number of minutes per call. This many calls, this many people. But when you have the same staff that's taking the calls, doing the investigations, it's a little bit different equation. So I've got to put together some things for them on that so they can keep moving forward on that. But otherwise, first flush, they just, they like the building. They thought we've got a heck of a facility downstairs as far as rooms and things of that nature. They told me I had nothing to be embarrassed about by the evidence room. I call it the black hole, but they were like, no, you've got nothing. You got to send yourself with this. We did a quick example for an inventory, and they were impressed how fast you can find stuff. And they're happy. That's impressive. I hate going there. They're pretty first blush, kind of awestruck at the amount of business we do. So we'll see what comes of it as the weeks progress and we get the information. Had an opportunity the state police captain wanted to come down and talk shop and just remind us that they're there and available to help us, and which has always been the case, and we've taken advantage of them. At the day we met the night before, the state police had picked a guy up for DWI in Hemlock, and we had a warrant for the guy, so they were nice enough to deliver him to us, not make us go to Hemlock and pick him up. I made him aware that we had used the state police canine on a cocaine dealer when we did a search warrant a month earlier, and that we had used their investigators on us with the robbery on Park Avenue. So our relationship with the state police has always been solid, and I don't see any reason why it's going to change. So that was a positive conversation. Again, we've got some significant court cases coming up, between grand jury and trials. Started yesterday with hearings on a gun burglar from over on Bank Street, a cocaine dealer over on Bank Street, a cocaine dealer down on Ocean Street. The robbery situation is still dragging out some details from Park Ave. So other than that, it's the standard static of stuff.
Charlie, you're talking about the state police. Who covers our area? Does Geneseo cover our area, or does Wayland cover?
Geneseo does.
Okay.
Yeah. That changed a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember there was something about it.
Yeah.
And
So it puts them a little farther away from us. The Wayland is, in a real heat of the moment situation, the Wayland troopers will be allowed to scoot over the hill, but for general purposes, not so much.
yeah.
So it's just kind of where we are in the county on the southern tip.
Knox Street radar.
Yeah, that we're just going to have to wait till. Right now, we would never get any reading we get now would be completely fictitious. I mean, today's the first day that the snow's actually melted off the streets. When the weather was good, it was holiday season. You're not going to get good readings then because people aren't going to school, they're not going to work. And now we've got people back to their normal routine, but there's no way they're going. If they are in fact speeding, they're not doing it now. So
Okay.
I'm just going to hang on to that thing. It's downstairs charging, and as soon as we think we've got a couple of real meaningful weeks of proper weather, then we'll stick that thing up and get some true accurate readings. Because right now, all we get is fictitious. People are doing what they're supposed to be doing for the weather conditions.
It's going to be in the next couple of weeks, I don't think.
I don't think so either. Yeah, I'm just going to try to hold on to that thing and explain to the sheriff's department. And I don't think anybody else is fighting me for it, to be honest with you. So I don't think there'd be any problem hanging on to it.
You had mentioned, I think last meeting or the meeting prior to that, you had a car, had antifreeze smell, there may have been some issues. Where'd that come out?
Well, that will probably come out getting driven to Hornell this week because while that was going to be the first one going last week, the other car was quit roadside. So we reprioritized and sent the one that was dead first, and now that that one's back, then we're going to send the one that stinks.
If you're selling distinctive cars, why wasn't that mouse in it?
But it is pretty. The guys were downplaying. It was way ruder than they were explaining to me. They were very quiet about it. It's pretty. I won't drive it.
What about the odd and even parking,
Yeah.
which,
There's some
we've
flags
had
up.
some discussions about.
Yeah, funny. You tell them we got them out because I'm writing notes on the back of the flyers. So yeah, we went out and we've been leaving some around.
Some are red.
Some are red, some are yellow. Yeah, it's whatever.
My wife's
sheet
got
paper we
one.
can Put our hands on. Oh yeah, that's right.
You're not a hero anymore.
Are those warnings? Is that what you're doing? Warnings?
Well, she pulls up right after work, stops, and there's Jeff sitting right there talking to some other guy. And she comes in the house and says, "Well, that was pretty nervy." That's not exactly how I said it. So she just parked on the wrong side of the road right in front of the cop.
And keep in mind, I'm not sure if we've ever talked about it here in recent time, but that odd even parking situation, as well as most of our parking ordinances, if you're parked between the curb, the edge of the pavement, there doesn't actually have to be a curb stone, but if you're parked between the edge of the pavement and the sidewalk, and that area has been improved I think the ordinance says with gravel, pavement, concrete, you're off limits. You're good to go. You're not in violation of the odd even if you improve that area. Now, and many people have. You'll notice in the spring and the fall, the ones that haven't, and then we send notices and letters and so on and so forth, making them aware that if they're going to continue parking in that area between the sidewalk and the edge of the pavement, that they're going to have to do some sort of improvement.
Yeah, and they have to get Scott's approval.
You know, which ultimately Scott's going to have to say will not deteriorate the road pavement. That is in a condition that won't cause the puddling, the thawing, the freezing to cracks the pavement. So when you look down this particular street, you might first blush say, wow, there's a whole bunch of violators. But then you got to take into consideration, are they in that area? And if they are, then they're good to go.
How
They actually
far
have to be
into
on-
that area do they have to be?
They have to be off the pavement, but they can't be on the sidewalk.
Okay.
So if they're on the sidewalk, they're in trouble. If they're still on the pavement, they got to go the other side of the street. But if they're off both of those pieces, they're safe.
If they have a truck with dually tires, there's no way they can be safe.
Yeah. Because they're going to be on both sides.
So yeah, so we've been
Okay.
throwing those around as well.
The thing I got is the 443F and 384E. I think that's the correct numbers on those paragraphs. You have the packets that Megan provided us the other day in your folders. Enjoy the reading. And I'm not even so sure you're going to understand. That's benefits for cops, retirement benefits. So read it. Got questions? We'll have to get the answers because I won't guarantee I got the answers.
Well, I have read through it. I mean, the 384E is fairly straightforward.
That's what we currently have.
Yeah. This 443F, how it applies to what we currently have, if it applies, it was difficult for me reading through the information to determine that. So, in my mind, we need some additional information or clarification, if that's even something we should be considering.
It's in the contract between the village and the DPOA.
443?
The 443.
No, that's not mentioned in the contract.
384E is.
Both of them are.
No. 443F is not mentioned in the contract.
So
As a
they
specific
call-
section, it's not.
The numerics are not there, no. The numerical number's not
That's correct.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
there. If you're talking about the actual
Right.
443, those numerics do not.
Right.
Yep.
Right, but what is offered in the contract, that's what it is the 443F with the retirement system. But I emailed all the information out. If you have questions, you could just reply to my email and I can send them off to whoever necessary to try to get an answer.
Well, we need to know if, in reference to the comment here, past service costs would be approximately $204,297 if we're obligated to pay that.
No
That's
way we can afford
That's the head
that.
of my question right there.
I'm not sure that question would probably be directed to an attorney, I would imagine. Not the retirement system, but.
That kind
Well,
of
who
money.
manages the retirement system? State?
State.
So shouldn't the state be able to answer that to some degree?
Yes,
They'd
that's-
probably give you
A roundabout.
Yeah.
Would you could understand their lingo would be the issue.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I can email them so that we have a reply in writing.
My suggestion would be to have a conference call. Have the appropriate people there asking the appropriate questions, have an exchange, a dialogue with somebody. Because I think it's important enough that we need to establish as soon as possible if this is something that we're liable for, if we have to pay this or not. So if it's possible, that would be my suggestion. Let's get the people together, talk to somebody up at the state level, and have an exchange, a communication with them, and find out whether or not this is something that we need to be concerned about. Because if we do, then we're going to have to spend some time on it and figure out what we're going to do with that commitment. And we ought to be thinking about doing that next week, as soon as possible, pursuing it. Not waiting, doing it.
Would like to be involved in the conference call, so I can copy everything.
Well, let's set up the conference call. At the very least, it's going to be you, Charlie, and the mayor. And if I can be there, I'll be there.
Okay.
Why don't you have it during the meeting?
Pardon?
Why don't you have it during the meeting?
At night?
I think they have daytime office hours.
Yeah.
with contacts
Well, if
that
we
I have
could.
anyways.
It may be difficult to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't want to exclude anybody. That's not the purpose in what I said.
No.
You know, it wasn't to exclude anybody.
I think those people that was just mentioned, I think are the people that should be doing the talking.
Because it wasn't clear to me, and I'm not sure. Just sending emails back and forth. If we're going to get to a point where I understand it, because I don't.
Right.
I don't know how they can make a statement about using a one-year final average salary calculation. That's a calculation of benefits, and going from a statement there and then saying that we could potentially owe $204,297 for past service. I don't make a connection between the two. One's a calculation that's going to determine retirement benefit based upon your salary over the last 12 months, and everyone says you owe X amount of money. I can't tie the two together. I don't know. Now, if you want to try and go to the state with a question around what I just said, trying to tie those two together, that would be a good start.
Okay.
If you can get there, that's fine. But if we can't, we need to resolve this and get some answers. Anything else for Charlie?
I had asked about the monthly report.
Yep.
Getting parts filled in.
Charlie can respond to that because, as I said, when you made your request, I went to Charlie and I went to Pete and provided them with email that you had sent to me, and so they can respond to your request.
Yep. Let's see. So, make sure I understand it correctly.
This wanted the one from December, if all the things could be filled in, so we have
Exactly.
a running total.
Yep, and every year I always have this great desire to give a year-end report, and then it always gets taken over for January's activities. But based on your request, I won't let it disappear in January or February's activities. I'll go back and make sure all those blanks are filled in, and some of that actually is going to be helpful information. I think it might be helpful information for this DCGS study as well. So,
Could you do it for December as well then? Just so we have the totals between 13 and 14.
yes, I would do it for December. And then
Thank you.
every now and then you just fall behind on a particular month and it gets lost in the transaction with the new information, but I'll go back, track this, and bring it all up to speed so that all the information is there. Let's see if I missed anything else. That answers that. Oh, and then the last sentence, as far as criminal versus non-criminal and calls per shift, the old system that we used prior to July 2007 gave us that information. That's an old DOS Q&A program that I've been told every year for 16 years is about to quit on us, and it's still just hanging. We've run it since 1992, and it's as solid as the day is long. But we don't put our calls for service into that anymore. We use the new Spectrum Justice system that the state provided us, which is a very good system in other ways. It doesn't break down criminal versus non-criminal. It doesn't break down calls per shift, but it gives us a whole lot more as far as stolen property and case tracking and things of that nature. So it's a far better system than the old program. It's supported by the state versus being supported in-house. But we did lose, when we switched over in July of 2007, we did lose some different information that this original report was based on. It would be a super chore to break those calls down by shift anymore. And I'm really not sure that the new system would even do it for me. I'd probably have to do it manually.
Does 911, or does the county do that?
No, not really. The information they give us, again, you'd have to go through it line by line by line and pull off what time of day it occurred in order to put it into a situation. And like I explained to the state when they were down here the other day doing their part of it, there's a certain number of calls that 911 doesn't have because they're generated locally. People call the 7-digit number, and a police officer happens to be standing there. They call the 7-digit number, and we take the call by the answering machine. They come to the window and require some police service. They flag you down on the street, so 911 isn't even involved in those. So
But you document those?
we document them in-house locally, yes. But 911 wouldn't have that information on their end. So if we used, for example, if we used 911's call system to document our calls, they may show us having 3,700 calls per year, when in actuality we have 4,700. It's probably safe to say that 20% of our calls still come people banging on the window, flagging you down on the street, or calling the local number. But yeah, I can fill that stuff in, and I'm actually in the process of doing that right now. But I don't see as we'll ever be able to break it down, criminal versus non-criminal, or by shift, with any real ease.
What is the local number?
Police number?
Yeah.
3385.
And how many calls a year do you get in them?
Calls, I mean, just people calling up for a variety of information. That's, 8, 10, 12, 20 a day. As far as actual police calls, I don't know. One day might be 3, next day might be 10. It's 3, 4, 5, 6. You never really know. And people are funny. I mean, a woman called twice the other day to say her house was broken into. Never called 911. About 2 messages on the machine. We explained to her 911 is there for that. I know, but I want to talk to you. You'd still be talking to us, just through 911. So you coach them along the way.
So when you have December's next week?
Probably not next week, no. But I would dare bet by, maybe by the end of the month, but definitely by the next committee meeting. I would think I'll be able to pull that together. Right now, I'm trying to pull all the information together for the study.
That it. We don't have a court report.
I brought it up,
Yeah, we have,
Okay.
set it on your desk.
No,
we have the.
Lost here
Just about
somewhere.
5 minutes to 7.
Okay. Okay. Say so it's in the pile somewhere.
Yeah.
Look for it tomorrow.
Anything else, public safety? I think we're all set, Mayor.
Okay, budget, finance, and audit, department heads, we got our budget talks tomorrow, tentatively 2:30.
2:30 tomorrow?
Yep. Sent out an email.
Really? I didn't get it. Okay.
Can't make it.
I'll be in later, is that all right?
Pardon me?
I'll be in later for that.
Okay. That'd be fine. Around 4? That'd be fine. Thank you. Okay, and in your folders, you should have a statement from Brian McElroy concerning the fund balance. I don't know if that answers the question that you had, but it's in there.
It's a statement.
It is a statement.
Doesn't answer really the question about fund balance, but it's a statement.
Yeah.
I still need to summarize some information for you guys.
Okay.
It's coming.
I still haven't heard back yet from the auditors.
I've been talking with them.
When they said when they're going to have this.
Quite a bit. They, here and there, they've been asking for a little more information. And I think it was Friday, Brendan said he thought that they were pretty well set, so
Yeah.
whatever that means,
So when are we going to have the
a
report?
month or less, I would hope. I'm not sure. We were hoping end of the year, but they do keep asking for some more information.
Okay.
I have a question
Okay,
on the balance sheet for the general fund
okay.
under assets. Are we all set? Line item A 391, due from other funds, 892,000 and change. Where's that coming from? Due from other funds? What funds? I don't understand that.
Though, you know, the due to, due froms that we've talked about.
Yeah, but from where?
Good question. We
I think we
don't,
collected all the taxes for the year. I don't see any revenue coming from that.
that's not from this year. That's not from this year.
Yeah,
That is one of the projects that we've been working on, trying to keep it as a priority, but that's been a challenge lately, to try to figure out what year, you know, from what I've found, a lot of our due froms, they date back to 96. So it's just trying to get a good understanding on where different funds were borrowed from, how to...
We may never be able to figure that out.
There is going to be some that we're not going to be able to figure out, but this is one of the things that I've been working very hard on, and hopefully once we get the report from Bonadio, they'll have a recommendation for us on how to move forward. But we have had several conversations around this. You know, and if you look at the sewer and the water, same thing. We have due from other funds. We have a special projects account, which shows the same thing. And hopefully we'll be able to narrow some of that down, but without having anyone here that was...
I mean, if
There's
you've
so
got a
many
dollar
years ago.
value there total, then you have to have some data that, you know, base that on. I mean, you just didn't pull that out. Obviously, you've got some data somewhere that gave you that total of 192,000.
Okay.
So what's that? That's the... You just didn't come up with that figure. It's due to's and due from, so you've got to have something to base that total on.
I guess I'm not sure what to say to you.
Well, what was...
These are the accounting records which have been, I didn't put this magic number in. This is how it's, I mean, this is our paper trail. You know, I'm trying to go back through AUDs, years of AUDs and old clerk's records to try to figure out where that would be itemized, where that would be accounted for.
The money is there, it's just you can't attribute it to the correct fund, correct?
Know. These are not due to, due froms, you know, since I've been here. These all date.
I understand
prior
it,
to
but
me.
we know how much are due tos and due froms. We just don't know where the due tos and due froms belong, correct?
That's correct.
So we know there's a chunk of money.
How
So-
we come up with that figure?
Well, that was done through the Brian when he was doing the books. Straightened it
Well,
out.
these have been recorded in the accounting software,
Right.
different amounts for
Ad infinitum.
quite a few years. You know, the largest amount that we've found, I believe, was the 9-10 year or the 10-11 year, without having the records with me and all of the research that I've done. I can't discuss this a whole lot. We can have a nice conversation once we get our audit report,
Yep.
and
It
combine
comes-
that with all of the research that I've done.
But wouldn't this figure be part of what we were referring to as fund balance?
Most of our fund balance is wrapped up in due to, due froms, yes.
Right.
That is correct.
But we don't know at this point really the historical
No.
due tos and due froms. So in reality, we don't really know what that figure is. I mean, this figure existed at some point. Is this figure
Right.
driven by the fact that you had pieces of information that you put together, or in reviewing the old records, you actually came across this figure?
No, this is a figure that's been ongoing in the accounting software for
Okay.
how many years? This is
So if
the
you go
figure
back 5
now.
years, you'll see this figure.
Not necessarily. You might see 26,000 here, 150,000 here, $2,000 here.
But how you put it all together? If it's here and there, and it's not consistent, from one year to the next, how do you put it all together to arrive at that figure?
Well, it keeps adding up. If you're not, if we have $800,000 due to the general fund from other funds, but those funds aren't paying it back, it's going to continue to add up.
But you don't have that information,
Ideally-
correct? You don't have that information. You suspect, but you don't have the concrete information that shows that.
That would be.
I don't mean you personally.
No.
I mean we here.
No, we don't. That's why we can't
We don't
attribute
have it. So why do we keep carrying this figure? We don't have it. It doesn't exist. Until you can prove it out there and show something, documentation, it really doesn't exist.
Until we can prove that it doesn't exist, we can't wipe it clean from the software. We can't do that either.
Well, I don't know how to best treat this, but it's not real. It's not real. I understand it exists in the software, but I don't know how to treat it.
Whether or
But
not the funds that owe the general fund are going to be able to pay the general fund back, if we can determine
if
the
we can't
specific
determine,
amounts. Yes, but like I've been saying, we need to wait for Bonadeo to give us the report this year.
okay,
Um,
okay.
Supposedly that will clean it up.
They're going to
Or
give a
they'll just simply say they
recommendation,
can't
and then the board
attribute
will
it.
have to make a decision. And with what time I have to spend on researching past years, I'm doing that as well.
And as far as the researching of prior years, pretty much you're the person doing that,
Yeah, it's just me.
right?
That's right.
So what I'm saying is that Bonadeo is working with year-end figures from last year and just updating them for the most current year. Basically, that's what they're doing.
Yes, and they're working with information that I've provided to
Yeah.
them.
But-
Yeah.
So
From previous
again, I applaud you for what you're trying to put together here, but ultimately, if we can't put together, something that's reliable, due tos and due froms, at some point we got to kind of look at it and say, listen, we need to resolve this, whatever it takes.
What'll happen is if we can't determine the due tos and due froms,
Yep.
it'll be wiped out.
And I guess
Nobody will owe anything to anybody. We'll start from zero.
when we get to that point.
Once you receive the audit report,
hopefully.
then you'll
Okay.
make a decision.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And that will give us a better picture of the fund balance too.
Okay.
Right.
Was this on the last audit report?
No, they haven't really been. They put that aside while they were working on other issues.
Okay. Fair enough.
And it was this year is when they decided, well, we all decided that they needed to take a better look at the fund balance. Hopefully this will be the year it'll straighten everything out
Okay.
once and for all.
So as soon as we have that report, we will
Yes.
revisit this and, okay.
What'll happen is probably the water and sewer will make out.
I just like to get to a point where, we're pretty much know where we're at. We're not backtracking anymore, and we're just, moving forward. And I know we all want to do that. I understand that.
It would be nice. Like the time I've been here.
So I'm saying, audit, stake in the ground, make an assessment, and then if we need to, wipe the balance sheet clean, at least of that item, and maybe some other items, we do it and we move on. Because that should be a clear picture of where we are financially, and that's what we need to make the decisions that we have to make. We need to know where we're at. Okay, thank you.
Anything else under budget, finance, and audit? Public Works. Scott,
I don't know if you saw a copy of this, Pete. on
the one from Clement Kester?
No, this is on the floodplain.
Probably not.
If you want to just
This,
digest it and then go over it maybe. It's only a couple pages if you want to read it. But it's their estimate to move forward.
this is answering some of the questions that we were raised
Yep.
last week?
Yep.
Okay.
I kind of agree they have in here that on the two creeks, Brewery Creek, an 8-foot diameter pipe. That's what FEMA says we need. Well, we know that's not true. And a 10-foot diameter pipe on the other one.
Mhm.
So I would say their numbers are definitely off.
Yeah.
I can remember the flood of 72,
Yeah.
down in Williams Park, nothing went over.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
Is there a cost estimate or something
Yeah,
like that?
12,000.
Yep.
To put in the,
No. That's just a challenge FEMA on their calculations.
That gets us nothing except maybe change in the calculations. If we,
Well, it's
if we
really
lose it, it's 12,000 gone.
Yeah, but you really have to start someplace.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bruce was doing some research on his end too, with he knew a fellow from FEMA. So I'd like to see how that goes too before we find a decision.
Is this just them? Does this include any lawyer assistance or anything like
This
that?
is just those guys, I believe.
Okay.
I would say we give it a month at least.
Yeah.
how many homes are in the floodplain?
I can't even, I think it was
200 and something, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it cheaper to subsidize those homes than to spend all this money? I mean, is it going, would it pay off?
Subsidize in which way?
Probably.
No, I mean, because the village could take responsibility of the streams,
Right.
and then any claims the village would pay.
Right.
Mhm.
Which really, how many claims are there? It's something to look at. I mean, the stream still needs attention. I mean, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But to live up to FEMA's
But it's on
expectations.
your terms as opposed to theirs.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked about that before, funding it ourselves.
Yeah, like 200 and somehow in the houses, at how much a year? How much you going to subsidize them at?
Well, basically, you just have to, any claims, the village has to pay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and again, how many claims have we really had? I don't know. It can't be that many. It was
Yeah, most of them have been there along Clay Street. Mostly furnaces and stuff like that,
Yeah,
stuff in the
right.
basement.
Yeah.
And that section could be repaired, I think. I mean,
Pardon me?
no, that section could be repaired,
Yep, there's enough room.
which needs to be repaired.
Yeah.
Right now,
There's enough room until you get to Pine Street, then it goes right there by Bill Futner's and Norm Scott's house. There's not much room you can do anything in there unless you're going to take Bill's driveway.
well, the box that the state put in, I think will handle it. I mean,
Flood,
500-year flood probably wouldn't, but
the flood insurance doesn't cover the basements anyway.
Well, they were telling us last week that mechanicals that will cover.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
that's what Bruce mentioned last week. I think it was Bruce.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that either. So.
previously it wasn't that way.
No,
They wouldn't cover anything in the basement. Had
but
to be first floor and
that's
above.
why that all changed when the rates shot up. Of course, we'll cover it now.
So if we took over the creeks, we could bow out of FEMA? We would have to take responsibility, yeah, then we'd have to pay any of the claims associated with any flooding. I guess, now that's why I don't
We need-
know.
before we go
Lawyer
that
would have to
route,
tell you, but that's what I've been told over and over.
I think we need to have somebody tell us that
Oh,
legally that
absolutely.
I hate to go down one path only to find out it's not valid.
But this 12,000 just for this, in addition to all the other costs associated with just challenging FEMA to start with, just the beginning of a big sucking noise.
Well, to challenge FEMA, that's quite a chore. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
It takes some effort.
That's right.
Taking
It
on
makes
Uncle
sense.
Sam with his big pockets.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotta get your ducks in a row.
Well, I guess that's something else for us to take a
Well,
look
this would
at.
actually work against some additional homeowners in the village. We heard the summary, and if they're going to MRB to share with them the data that they collected, potentially could extend what's currently out there, the floodplain. So there's a risk in pursuing this, at least from that perspective. A risk that what the floodplain will extend beyond its current borders and include other properties not within the floodplain.
That's true.
So it could be opening up Pandora's box
Yep.
in that respect.
I could come
So
back
we
and
could
bite
be
you.
hurting more residents versus helping those that we want to do. We want to help, do what we can. But
Actually, I like the idea of us taking it over, set up a fund or some sort of insurance deal
Right.
where we could,
Be a
self-insured.
there may be something there
mhm.
to pursue.
Right.
And, people along the way, they could contribute to it, those who are affected.
Yep.
That'll be more reasonable,
Right. Yeah.
So that'd be the ideal way to go.
if we can do that.
I wonder if you could set up a
Floodplain
special district. Actually, that's where I was going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Floodplain special district or something.
That's the real answer to it right there, if that was legally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That works. I would spend the money, at least at this point, looking into that.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Better spent.
And the district could be set up, and they could also do improvements to the stream
Yeah.
through that.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
240 houses, even $100 you can claim.
And we'd have to get the,
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Look what they're paying.
they'd have to get the easements in order to get into the deal.
Oh, yeah.
Give us the easements, that
Yeah.
way that,
I mean, the property owners paying thousands of dollars.
I know it.
Thousands. $5, $6, $7, $8,000 a year for
That's
flood
absurd.
insurance.
Yeah.
Even if you take 1,000 ahead, it's 240,000 a year, just $1,000 a piece.
Right.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, you do a lot of repairs to that stream, and self-insured.
Mayor's looking
Yeah.
into, I would
mhm.
think.
Yep. I agree. I think.
Wish somebody had said that sooner.
Right.
Bill Funder's been saying that for 20 years.
That-
And honestly, he has.
Yeah, in a sense he
That's
has.
exactly right.
He has.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I seen that map that Bill had years ago.
Okay, well, let us look into that then, before we go any farther.
Probably another, throw that in on John's session. Get a 3 for,
Yeah. I like that you doing nothing.
We're building a list.
you said there'd be more for the meeting with him.
I hope there isn't a 500-year flood. That's the other issue. If something happens before we get done, we're going to be busted.
Yeah.
Temperature gets over 40 the next few days, we'll have it.
That's exactly
I hold that back until I'm gone.
If you're a washing sound.
right.
I know, I'd say there's a lot of snow.
Supposed to freeze up. We should just go gently.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was one of the top things I had on my list was flood control. I think we got,
And then, on these old homes, that one that on Clay Street that was owned by Bucky,
yeah,
we need to really watch that house, the village, because that's the key to that whole stream down through there. I mean, if that gets sold to somebody,
Mhm.
I don't know what we can do, but
Who-
we should buy that one at auction,
Yeah, that's
Do what we have to
that's
do and then-
exactly right.
sell it. I mean, that's seriously, that
I
lets
mean,
you into that whole stream.
and keep it right away going back.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
It's flooded. That's a perfect spot. I mean, that's the whole problem right there on that property.
Yeah.
With that access, you could clean up that whole part.
Yep. And that's something I think that we need to look at instead of keep talking about it. think we
I
need to
totally
do
agree.
Yep.
Check your email, Scott. You got an email from Clement concerning Kester, the insurance people coming out. I'm not sure sure if I got a copy here or not. Yeah, right here.
I've got 2 of them to have a look at, yep.
Yeah.
I got them.
Yeah. Okay.
He sent them late tonight, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, just a heads up on that. So we made a good plea. Get that gentleman out here so we can get our money.
Yeah, it's taking long enough.
That's for the flooded
flooding?
equipment, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I
Down
got
there,
that.
the pump and everything.
We're still paid to heat the place?
No, the boilers, they installed a new boiler.
Mm-hmm.
It ran for 5 days and quit. And it was just a fuse. What caused it to fall, I have no idea.
Yeah,
Put the new fuse in, she's been purring along, so.
that's okay.
And what about the heating that we were doing till we got to the point where the new one was installed?
He'll be paying for that. I've submitted
Right.
all those bills on my lease, will be reimbursed. for that.
DMACO will be paying for that.
And you'll see some bills I marked, like, we had to buy some tarps. The side stream tank was totally solid, frozen, 3 foot, we had to defrost that. And the boys tried to press sludge here at the beginning of the week, it was so cold, it actually froze the sludge when it was coming out, so we had to stop that. And hopefully that'll be, when the building's up, that won't occur. But there still isn't any heat in that building, so I don't know, that might be another little issue we'll have to solve, but that won't be a big deal. Maybe some heat tapes, or I don't know. We'll have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So Randy said he's good for a couple more weeks, so. We're hoping when they take this spine screen out, that, because we're going to have to switch the guy's hours around a little bit to babysit that, because we won't have the spine screen.
Mm-hmm.
That we could maybe press right around the clock, because there'll be somebody there and just get it done like in a week, because we had an issue with the side stream tank, it keeps freezing on us. Right now, they're running a pump in there to keep it defrosted, but now with the weather that's coming.
Oh, yeah. This weekend.
Yeah. So,
Coldest of the season, they're saying.
Yeah.
a challenge down there for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. High as 0 on Sundays.
Yeah.
Well, since we're on the water and sewer, or sewer anyway, let's do the water and sewer rates while we're talking. Anybody got any ideas? Has anybody thought about it any since last week besides shuddered?
There was some sheets that Paul did that he didn't share with you guys. He left them. I don't know if anybody is interested. It's kind of some of his
Yes, I would be.
notes that he had. You probably have to make a couple of copies.
Now you can make one for me tomorrow.
But what he said that he would do is we could have a conference call. Anybody that wanted to have a conference call with him, we could go over him, ask questions, and do whatever. I mean, it was kind of a brief presentation the other night to really get into these. There's a lot to it.
Right. Yeah.
So, maybe even, I don't know, tomorrow. I don't know if he's available, but we could.
In the afternoon, we're tied up with the budget. In the morning, I got a couple of things I'm tied up with. So.
That's why I meant maybe during the budget, or I don't know who wants to be involved. We'll set up a separate.
I don't know if we're going to decide this probably on the numbers anytime soon anyway. I think we're going to be beating those things to death before we decide on anything.
So it probably would be good to have all the board members do a conference call with them after.
I'm thinking also...
Well, he's gone right now anyway, isn't he?
I think he's still here. I think he's.
I thought he was supposed to be, he only had last week. It was the only week he could do it.
I think he's here this week, and then he's gone. He goes to Florida for.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even he would probably.
We can
If you guys give me some ideas, I'll get a hold of him maybe from Florida too. He can take the notes with him.
Unless somebody has some ideas right now, we're going to have to do our homework on this.
I mean, the information is there relative to what we need to produce as far as revenue to generate to cover our expenses. It's pretty clear to me.
Okay.
I mean, as I look at it, it's more of a matter of phase in. Do we go 100% or do we phase it in over a period of time? These are not easy decisions. We discussed that previously. I would like to say that, to get some input from the new board members and some fresh eyes looking at it. Certainly I would appreciate that. I know that that's a couple months off. If we can wait to take any final action for 2 or 3 months, We can certainly look at it and make recommendations, but I would like to have the new board members take a look at it. Maybe they have some input to provide.
I agree.
Yeah, or we could,
I'm not saying we just let it lie there and do nothing, but
we don't have to wait for the elections. We could just have all of the candidates participate if they wanted to.
there you go.
Yeah.
I'll take
What they're
anybody who
getting
wants to
into.
participate. I'll take anybody who wants to participate, candidates or not. Give us some help on this.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Give us
The
some
more, the
guidance.
more the merrier.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I guess at this point I would
Think
say,
about it. We can decide next week how we want to proceed with it.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking, I've read through it right after we got the information. I need to do it again, but also, take a look at where we end up in the budget. That's certainly a piece of this, and maybe a conference call or something is a good approach. I don't know.
Well, I think down the road it would be, when you have good questions. And,
Yeah.
but you're right, it is pretty cut.
It's tough to get your hands around it. I mean, there was an expectation, and obviously are falling short of that expectation.
Well, we were
significantly.
okay until this past year's what's really screwed it up, and that was in part, I think, we weren't really thinking of that loan on, the meters.
Yeah.
I don't think we really took that into full account. And the fact that there was some overestimating on some of the revenues. And some numbers that just weren't right. So here we are. It's here, we got to deal with it.
We've got to deal with it, and as we move forward, it's got to be self-supporting.
I mean, we're not tanked yet. Actually, we're actually in better shape than we were 4 years ago.
Oh, exactly.
Just not where we want to be.
Exactly. If we hadn't done what we've already done, we would be in serious trouble.
But, okay, well, chaw on it a little bit between now and next week. And see who we want to include and how soon we want to start. I don't have any problem sitting down with anybody. It's and get some better ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, also, we were talking about committing to a public meeting. So we need to,
Oh, before we make any decision, that's going to happen.
we need to.
I think we should have
Along
a
those
plan
lines.
before we get there, though, how we're going to do it so we can
I understand.
understand it and defend it
Yeah.
Yeah.
and duck. It ain't going to be pretty.
No.
Unless we want to cut our expectations back, but that's not going to solve the problem long term. These are all issues that have been accumulated over the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't feel like kicking the can down the road. I don't think there's much more road to kick it down.
No.
Okay.
Can's getting in pretty bad shape, too.
All right. You got anything else, Scott? That's pretty much it. Got enough to do with the plowing?
Snow.
Yeah. You get my message the other day over there on School Street? Okay. I came down there the other day to park, and my gosh, it was about 6 feet into the road.
It's that way everywhere. That's the problem.
Well, I understand that.
Which fire do you put out first? Today, we cleaned up down on Lower Franklin because that was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a chore trying to do that during the day. It's not a good thing to do, but
Went down by the plazas?
no, actually, like in front of Edmund Heining's, a car wash.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I witnessed people walking in the street.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
The state falls, all that slush over there.
Yeah.
So we had 2 residents called and asked if we could help them out. So.
How about our snow farm? Is this
The
still?
snow farm is working good. There's a lot of
Is
snow in
it
there.
is it all just going out there?
Everything so far is in there.
No?
I still got quite a bit of room. Thank God the snow farm is there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've had, the one old dump truck it fails me just about every time we go out to plow. the
Yeah.
one that's 25 years old, and
That the
we had
one
both of the dump.
The one Don drives?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just getting tired, but, the wear and tear down at the park, it's just, I'm so glad we're not hauling it down there anymore. That was not a good place to haul it.
Yeah.
Well, like you say, the dump, it's just so far away.
Yeah.
It'd take you forever to get the job done. So, yeah, the snow farm came just at the right
You
time.
can't dump that directly into the creek, can we?
You gotta stay back from the creek.
That slowly melt in,
Yeah, they want it to go on down through.
trickle through the soil.
Yeah.
Is,
It's gonna be next year.
out of curiosity, is DEC aware that we do this?
Snow?
Yeah, where we're putting it?
I don't think they really care. I mean, as long as you don't put it right into the stream.
Okay.
I mean, we've done it for years up above. You can put it on the bank, just don't push it in.
Mhm.
And we're a long ways from it down there anyways. It has plenty of room to.
Okay. I do have, since we're talking about
I got a couple things for Scott, unless you're going to move
Yeah.
on.
vehicle,
Might still be
Well, I got that. That's one thing.
yeah, you can do it. I don't care.
Oh, you're going to do it? Go ahead, go for it.
Oh,
Well, while we're on water and sewer, maybe I'll do that.
okay, go ahead.
Back in December, Scott, we had a list of 6 residents in the rears on their water and sewer significantly, and we gave them a grace period over the holidays. Has there been any action regarding that?
No.
So,
A couple of them are paid. A couple of them, the one on Franklin, that's that deal that we have trying to put the water lines in.
Mhm.
I agree with Karen, what she'd like to do. I mean, it's in our law, we can do it, is those should go on, as far as I'm concerned, back taxes, and we should be paid on those, get our money.
Well, we'll be made good, but the question is being fair to everybody.
I understand,
they need to be turned off.
but I think that one's paid. That one's paid. So I think there's maybe in this other one, I know they're making payments. I think that one, like,
I'm not sure.
pretty sure. So we're down to like 2. So
Fair and equitable.
fair enough. We haven't shut anybody off, and I talked to Karen. We figured in early March we'd start shutting off again. I mean, pretty hard for the boys to go out right now and do shut offs.
Just say, can you find it?
I can live with that with the time of year.
Yeah.
However, until we change the law, we've decided to follow the letter of the law,
Right.
which means there are timelines to follow. And obviously, there's exceptions to that, given the weather. But everybody gets treated the same way.
The one on Franklin is an issue because that feeds the house in the back.
Right.
Well, the
So-
issue is also near the rear is over $4,000.
I understand it, but we can't, if we shut that one off, we shut the one out that is paying their bill. And that's an issue with the village. We kind of, somebody made that arrangement 50 years ago, and now we're stuck with it. I've got an easement to go through there, a new line has not been installed, and until that's done, I can't shut that one off.
I understand.
But the other ones, yes.
And I think it would be interesting, and I know it's more money, but I think it would be interesting to know if we come up with a ballpark cost as to what it would take. I'm assuming running a line from Dock Street, I'm assuming that's where it comes from. Maybe it would come all the way up from Milton, I don't know. But I would like to know a ballpark estimate of what it would cost to run the line up Battle Street from, say, Dock versus another cost of going cross lots from Franklin to that one house. Because even though it might be more money to do it up Battle Street, it may be more beneficial in the long haul, dollar for dollar.
And that's why we didn't do it, Charlie.
Right. It is more money.
Well, no, I didn't run it through his yard because Pete and I talked about it,
Yeah, we talked
Because
the
I
same
set it
thing.
all up right now on Spruce and Milton to go right on down through.
Right.
We were talking about it in the fall, but, with the weather coming on, there was no way, we just decided to hold off on that one.
It just scares me on digging down through there how contaminated it is when you go by the NICEAG.
Well, that's what I'm saying too. Maybe coming up, maybe it's better to come up from Dock Street, go the shorter distance just to get it done. And that may, dollar for dollar, that may be less money than coming down from Spruce. Coming up is cheaper than coming down, plus I think Battle Street's a better option than cross lots because cross lots you're only going to handle one house, whereas you do have the potential of covering other properties on Battle Street.
No, I agree.
It'd be interesting to know what, I guess in that case, it'd be interesting to know what the price all three ways would be.
And we don't want anybody holding us hostage either.
No.
That's where
Because
we're
that's
at.
where we're at.
Well, we're
And I
not
don't like that
exactly there.
situation. We need to address that, whatever it takes,
Let's see, we're
within
not,
reason.
yeah, we're not
All
really
factors
there.
considered.
The only hostage is being fair to everybody, because this person you can't cut off without cutting somebody else
Well, I understand that,
Yeah.
but
Right.
But
in
you're right.
essence, we're being held hostage.
Yep.
We got somebody there that is
But
in
we'll
the-
still get our money.
and this is from back in the 2014 balance.
Mhm.
So, you know, the meter's still running here.
Yep.
I don't know what it's at now. It's got to be more than that figure.
Last bill,
You don't have to pay it, end up, might get the house.
I'm sure there, I mean, I know I was there for a call a couple weeks ago, and while I was there on that issue, family issue, NICEAG was knocking on the door and giving them 3 days. So it's, you know.
There's more than just water.
Yeah,
It's,
it's an ugly mess over there.
that's-
and there's
It's a
I'm
must.
not surprised to hear
there's
that.
children in there too, that's the sad part of it all.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, Mr. Mayor.
Alrighty. Truck we bought, the 1-ton, without the bed.
Yep.
What the hell happened there?
What do you mean, what happened?
Well, why are we buying a truck without a bed in it to begin with? Without having ordered that at the same time?
Well, usually you don't buy them that way. I mean, you can buy them that way, but that truck we bought locally, so I didn't.
Understood. I understand that. What I'm saying is, shouldn't we have been planning to buy the rest of the truck right at that same time, rather than just, let's get the truck and we'll worry about the bed later?
Well, as I say, we haven't had that conversation. I told you last meeting, we need to have a conversation on the trucks, and I'll explain all that. If you want to do it tonight, we can.
Well, now's as good a time as any, because we're getting hit with it.
Well,
We spent, what, $30-some thousand on a truck that we're not using.
then we'll put a body on it, we'll use it. That's the plan.
But right now, it's sitting where, up at the water plant?
Yep.
Doing nothing.
Because of our budget constraints and everything, I didn't feel it, we didn't want to spend the money right now, so that's why we let it set. I mean, I have the money and the funds to do it, to put the box on it. That's not an issue. Just the issue is, do we want to spend the money right now? The budget meetings that we talked about, we said, stop spending, so that's what we did. That's why it's set.
Okay. Dick? Did that answer your question? So, for now?
I would like to.
I
would like
guess
to-
in hindsight, Scott, I wasn't aware, and it may have been just a lack of awareness on my part when we approved the purchase of it. We were approving the purchase of the cab on the chassis only. I did not appreciate that. And you could have been clear about that, and perhaps I just didn't, take note of it.
We're taking the box off the other truck and we're going to put it on that truck, is what the plan was.
I mean,
There's a lot to it that we need to sit down and talk about, and maybe tomorrow at the budget meeting we can do that. I mean, there's options of which way we can go.
when something comes before this board, we, meaning everybody here, and most of the department heads and the people that sit on this side, of the tables, we need to have the level of detail and specifics that we know exactly what we're approving. In this case, I'm not sure that I knew, because if I knew that, then perhaps it would have generated some additional questions or maybe need for some additional information, knowing that we're starting out with the truck chassis, never going to get the box, and we need to put everything together to know what the big picture is and what's the expense going to be to us. At least that's my take on it, and that's just not for you, that's for Charlie. For anybody that's looking to make a significant purchase, we need to know that for a number of reasons, because we're elected to represent the community, and it's our job to know that. And also, when I get asked questions out in the community and I don't have the answers, and yet I'm on the approval side, I should have the answers. So I think there's an opportunity here for both all of us to learn that that's what we need to be dealing with. specifics. Not what could be, not what we're going to do, specifics. Such that we know every time we vote what we're voting on.
That was the talk to swap the box to begin with.
It was. I mean, it was just a cab and chassis that I bought at the time.
Right.
I'm sorry that, if you didn't understand.
Right.
There's like 3 different options, 3 different ways we can go. The truck that Matt drives now, I'd like to have that in the highway side. We need a truck there. That was the original plan.
Right.
And there's 4 different ways to skin a cab. The body would have been purchased out of highway. So it's,
But we need to be clear and straightforward on that, and I'm not saying that you weren't. Again, it may have been a misunderstanding on my part, but as I look to the future, I've got 2 more years to serve on this board, and I'm going to be sure in the future that I've got the information I feel that I need to make the best decisions that I can. And, it's something that we all need to be aware of, that's all. I don't like being put in that position. And I may have put myself in that position. And I'll take responsibility if I did. But I will not knowingly put myself in that position in the future. And if you can help me out, Charlie can help me out, whomever, I would appreciate it.
Hey, anything else from Scott? All right, moving right along, Parks and Rec. All right, I had a talk with Ian down at the county administrator, Mr. Coyle, and he came back with a suggestion on the parking space over there by the Little League. 15 spots would be not parallel parking, but more like a vertical parking. Be about 15 of them right along the road, so it wouldn't be a square at the end where the old parking lot was. $1,000.
so like 150 feet frontage that they're going to allow.
Whatever, I didn't know.
Was that kind of what was laid out before? Where you got the parking lot
Nah, it was sort of,
along there?
there was some different options. That was the one I think that I more or less liked best, because I think you got more vehicles in
Right.
there.
Is that what
If
we're
we went to a
looking at?
parking lot, I don't think we'd get 15.
No, right.
So
The parking
that,
lot didn't work. It was
No, not
right
really.
cluster.
Right.
Angle parking would be nice.
Or angle, it could be a little
angle
bit
parking, yeah, that's the right
Angle
term.
would probably be the best.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to get more than 50.
To identify the
Yeah. Well,
15?
Well,
15 is what he said, about 15. $1,000.
if
I-
we can get that many, but that's.
Can we get 30 for 2,000?
I would like to ask that question.
Me too.
Really?
Why not?
Why not? Ask the question. Can we get 30 for 2?
What's the whole road frontage cost?
Yeah, right to the park. There you go.
I mean,
And what's the dimension either of the plot of land or of the parking space that he's trying to sell to us?
Well, whatever.
probably 10 foot wide per space.
Yeah.
I would say.
10 by
Yeah.
20 probably.
Yeah.
And what, if any, detriment does that have to that piece of property in the future? We gain 15 spots now, but then it, I think the county's going to be begging people to take that off their hands before they're done. I still maintain that somebody's going to have that whole lot for $1,000.
He said Shannon wanted to buy the whole thing.
Yeah, I think not for nothing. He doesn't realize he got his best offer right there. He offered too much money. They'll never sell for that. But
Having that type of parking over there, is that going to create any type of issue?
well, first things first, you have to make sure you're at least 20, 30 feet off the intersection. So you're going to come back probably at least 30 feet because you're going to want to at least come off 30 feet for no other reason than the fact that you're encouraging kids to cross the street into the parking spaces. So you're going to want to come back off 30 feet off the short side at least, which is probably almost 50 to 60 feet off the long side. Off the Little League field, be back 50 or 60 feet off the short side where they're offering to park, it'd be at least 30 feet, and then another 150 feet down through from there.
Right.
not that I see any clamoring for building lots over there, but if there was such, I would have to say dig and go back in 20 feet would probably, that would definitely take that Knox Street frontage and make it non-buildable. It's probably at best 66 feet right now, probably. It's probably an old building lot, probably 66 feet. It'd be a 46-foot lot.
No,
No
doesn't mean
building
it.
lot there. Makes it valuable for only the neighbor, Shannon.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but it definitely takes any development issue out of it. It's only lawn then. And then you'd have to go down, if you go down 180, 200 feet down School Street, then you'd have to say how much distance you have now from the end of the parking spaces to the corner of that little Bank Street dead end. What do you have there? Have you now compromised any potential development on that? It's pretty long, so I'd say probably not.
Probably not.
And I think those are all things that would have to be looked at. Or should be looked at.
Does the Little League have any money?
Well, no, but I was thinking there's a possibility you could go out to, say, Lions or Rotary or somebody and ask for a donation.
I mean, do they care who purchases it?
No, at that point, it probably becomes it becomes a public parking area.
Yeah.
In 15 spaces, realistically, the only thing that's going to change is it's going to pull the people that park out of the way now on that little dead-end Bank Street corner. They'll just pull them around the corner.
Right, yeah.
It's not going to alleviate any questionable parking or hazards, because those people on that little dead-end spot now, if you will, are out of the way anyways. So those would be the people that park now closer, so you're not alleviating any hazards or traffic or parking issues on School Street. So the parking spaces are handy, but it doesn't alleviate the issue on School Street. That will still exist, because 15 is not enough to make a difference.
So is it a benefit?
I don't know, I think I don't see anything myself, but
Someone else going to take those spots.
well, and then,
That's all.
well, not too many homeowners over there, but it is.
Yeah, it would be,
Just some of the
yeah. If we don't take them, conversely, what's going to happen? It could go to a property owner, and then we lose the capability to park on that side.
If anything.
Well, we still park along the street.
Yeah, you still have parallel parking.
We still have the same parking we have.
Yeah,
now.
but
That will be the same.
that's a pretty
Other than
pretty narrow street.
we have no parking on the Little League field.
Yeah.
We don't allow parking there.
Yeah.
So as I see it, it doesn't change anything. I'll just pull the cars off from Bank Street onto the School Street, but everything else will stay exactly the same. You spend $1,000 and I don't know what it takes to gravel it so you don't sink.
See if they sell us more.
I can ask.
Ask. Ask if that's their final offer.
See if we can get 30 for 2.
Yeah, yeah.
You know where I'm coming from, don't you?
Yeah.
So this is a question.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll ask. Alrighty, last thing under Parks and Rec.
I got a question.
Sure.
Do we use that skateboard park anymore?
I suppose there are some kids down there, but there's nothing for them to really skate on.
Oh, you know-
I'm not sure there are that many skateboarders right now, are there? Of course, it's hard to tell this time of year,
Yeah.
unless they got ice skateboards.
I was in Geneseo a few weeks ago, and I went up to their Highland Park.
Mm-hmm.
They have a dog park up there now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just about the size of our skate park.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a bed in the center with a bunch of chips and stuff in it. And they're utilizing that area for a dog park. I know that, what was it? Was it Rotary?
Rotary and Lions, I think, both contributed to it.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't know what kind of stipulations. I was just offering it as something for the community.
I say, for the most part, it just sits there idle. somebody,
Yeah,
every
exactly.
now and then somebody puts something in it, but there's
Yeah,
not.
right.
It's
You
usually
know,
junk.
I mean, you have to put some type of gate in there to go in and out. You know, so as to.
Yeah, because that's just a zig and a zag
Yeah,
type gate,
yeah.
isn't it, on that coming in?
But that, like I say, I went to Highland Park and I looked at their dog park there.
How big is their parking? Any measurements on it?
I didn't, I could pursue it a little more.
The only issue I see over there was parking. You know, I don't know if people are just going to walk, but if they do drive,
Yeah,
there's really no place to park.
yeah.
No parking along the street?
It'd be pretty tough on that street.
Yeah, I know it's not great.
Yeah.
Wasn't really set up for.
No,
Unless they park over at the,
They could park.
either the hospital or over at Brayburn,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
which
There's
is
lots
probably
of
where they would park.
There's
Yeah.
lots of parking.
Probably
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. I don't think there'll be too much of a complaint.
Right. I don't know. I looked at it and I thought about it and I thought I'd bring it back.
I'll call Mayor Hathaway and see what
Uh-huh. Yeah.
what size they've got.
I'm gonna see him next week anyway.
Yeah, well. Okay. And technologies. Trustee Crowley, anything?
I made my plea before. The website still needs a lot of help. Pictures don't match up. I think we need something new, maybe more informational on the front of it. Needs some serious updating.
Well, we probably need a new website, but that's one of the three issues that we've been looking at between that codification and records management. Right now, we have no idea what our records are. Our laws and everything are a mess. And the website is there.
Jessica's
There.
actually done a really good job with it,
Yeah, she has.
considering what we have.
Given the capabilities of it, yeah. Given the
Yeah.
capabilities of it.
She has a ton of information on there, and she's using the Facebook page now and
Yeah.
Yeah, but
getting a
it's,
lot of information out there.
She's pretty much done what she can with it.
Right? Yeah.
No one was discounting that, it was just the overall,
yeah, understood.
Yeah.
needs a lot of help.
Yep. It's not the most inviting site. Not warm or any of that stuff. Okay. Under unfinished and new business. Anybody have anything for next week? Okay. Not hearing anything, I'll assume that. However, I would like to bring up the issue of the Dansville Police Officers Association contractual agreement. Information was handed out on that 2 months ago in December. And we acted on it. So I would ask for a motion to approve the contract.
Why are we doing it tonight? Don't we do it on the regular board meetings?
I sent out an email the other day saying I'd like to do it because I'd like to get it done. It's dragging on.
But when we.
And I got a call the other day from the union, from the negotiator, and he had a good argument. We got after them because they were dragging their feet. Now they're after us because we're dragging our feet.
6
Move to
days.
approve.
I have a motion by trustee Whitenack to approve. Second. I'll make the second. Discussion.
Again, the board did not meet as a whole to discuss if this was the contract that the board wanted to provide the Dansville police officers with, just like the CSEA contract. We weren't part of it. And it's usually not just one or two people negotiating, it's actually making sure that the board is in agreement that that's the contract that they want to provide.
think the negotiating team done its due diligence on both contracts. Both contracts are give and take regardless of what the situation is. I don't think that there's any contract negotiations where you bring the rest of the board in to discuss it.
Actually, it's pretty common. If the board is
It
going
is?
to approve it, yes.
No,
Actually,
I've never done that.
I'm in negotiations right now where I work, and the board is negotiating with the union. And they have their negotiating team, but they bring it back and meet regularly with the board. And this board wasn't part of it.
I don't have a problem acting on it tonight, but my preference would be to wait till next week because that's really our open meeting to the public. Not that this isn't open. And as we've learned in the past, it's a better fit to do something at our open meeting. Open in the sense that, that's kind of the meeting that the public looks at, that's the meeting where we conduct our business. And for that reason alone, my preference would be to wait until next week.
Well, I'll accept a motion then to table till next week.
So moved.
And a motion by trustee Crowley, a second.
Second.
Okay, and a second by trustee Labar. All in favor, well, let's see, trustee Whitenack?
Right?
Okay, trustee Labar?
Aye.
Trustee Crowley?
Aye.
And the mayor's an aye.
I didn't hear your vote. What was it?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-1. We will vote next week then. And unless there's something else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion by trustee Labar, second.
I'll second.
Second by trustee Crowley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.